This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Tuesday, July 30th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
President Biden is laying out a long-awaited plan for Supreme Court changes. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Former President Donald Trump expected to be interviewed with the FBI regarding the attempt on his life. I'm Clayton Neville.
Rafael Nadal plays what could be his final singles match. I'm Steve Futterman at the Summer Olympics in Paris.
On Wall Street, stocks are coming off a mixed day. The Fed starts a two-day meeting on interest rates today. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
A New York judge gives a split decision for the National Rifle Association. I'm Jackie Quinn.
All ahead on America in the Morning. President Biden has announced his support for sweeping changes to the nation's highest court. Correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
We'll hear argument this morning in case 23-719.
Last week, the president said the nation's highest court needs reforms.
This is critical to our democracy.
In a Washington Post op-ed today, the president writes what's happening now at the Supreme Court is not normal and has undermined public confidence in its decisions. His proposed changes include term limits and an enforceable ethics code for the justices. Donald Trump is blasting court reform as a bid to play the ref, and the president's plan appears to have little chance of getting through a divided Congress before the election. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Former President Trump will reportedly be interviewed by the FBI in its investigation into the man who tried to assassinate him at a Pennsylvania rally earlier this month. Correspondent Clayton Neville has the story.
The former president has reportedly agreed to take part in a victim interview with the FBI. Trump was on stage in Butler, Pennsylvania, when investigators say Thomas Matthew Crooks fired from a nearby rooftop, hitting Trump, killing a former fire chief and injuring two others.
I really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
The FBI told reporters the interview with Trump would be consistent with any interview the Bureau would conduct for any victim of crime under any circumstances. Investigators have labeled Crooks as a loner and have said that he had a search history that included high-profile names. Still no clear motives, though, after hundreds of interviews with witnesses and people who knew the gunman. I'm Clayton Neville.
The 2024 presidential election is heating up as Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Trump vie for the White House with less than 100 days to go. Correspondent Jennifer King has more.
What kind of country do we want to live in?
Vice President Kamala Harris has been smashing campaign fundraising records and pervading social media since stepping in for Joe Biden last Sunday. Harris gave a virtual address to a summit for young activists in Atlanta, Voters for Tomorrow.
We know young voters will be key, and we know your vote cannot be taken for granted.
Representative Jasmine Crockett of Texas describes the level of excitement among Democrats, saying this is potentially Obama on steroids.
She's terrible. She's worse than he is.
Former President Donald Trump, meanwhile, at a rally in St. Cloud this weekend.
No, I haven't changed. Maybe I've gotten worse, actually, because I get angry at the incompetence that I witness every single day.
Republicans who had been predicting a landslide remain optimistic, but are working on new angles of attack to see what sticks against Harris. I'm Jennifer King.
It is still unclear who Kamala Harris will choose to be her running mate. Two potential VP picks, Governors Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan and Roy Cooper of North Carolina, have both bowed out of the candidate pool. The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Sleep better together. Save 40% on a Sleep Number limited edition smart bed only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com. Going for the gold in Paris. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Forecasters continue to watch the development in the Atlantic of a potential hurricane that could cause some problems for Florida later in the week. First, with a look at today's forecast, here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
A couple of disturbances swinging around the northern edge of high pressure that will hang over the south are expected to lead to an uptick in both the coverage and the intensity of the severe weather threat today and into midweek, making for what may end up being a widespread, impressive severe event from eastern North and South Dakota into sections of the Ohio Valley. Thunderstorms late this afternoon and into tonight, then Wednesday and Wednesday night, will be capable of delivering large damaging hail, destructive wind gusts, perhaps close to 80 miles per hour in some spots, as well as a few tornadoes. Residents of these areas may want to stay weather aware, as some locations may receive dangerous storms both today and tomorrow. On a different note, those situated underneath the zone of high pressure instead will face a heat wave this week, namely from the northern high plains across the southern plains and into interior sections of the south, where high temperatures can be 8 to 15 degrees above the historical average today and for much of the week. For the southeast, the heat will be tempered in some spots by a few more clouds in the area, but the best risk for thunderstorms should be situated from Florida and Georgia into parts of the Carolinas as the day progresses. The western United States looks to be quieter overall than in many recent days, with reduced coverage of monsoon thunderstorms in Arizona and New Mexico. Other than that, most places stay dry today, outside of some showers tracking along the path of the subtle storm from Idaho into western Montana. The northeast and the eastern Great Lakes should be rather active today, with no shortage of showers and thunderstorms from northern Maine and northern New England across upstate New York, western Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Ohio and Michigan. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. The men's Olympic triathlon planned for today has been postponed over concerns about water quality in the Seine River in Paris. To the tennis court, where Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal face off. Here's Correspondent Steve Futterman with an update.
It may have been the last singles match for Rafa Nadal. Here in Paris, the Spanish star faced off against his longtime rival, Novak Djokovic. The record book will show it was a straight-set win for Djokovic, 6-1, 6-4. But that does not tell the entire story. For a brief moment in the second set, Nadal came to life, playing like he once did. With Djokovic leading 4-0, Nadal reeled off 4 straight games to tie the set. The crowd at Roland Garros, which was for Nadal, suddenly became engaged. In the end, Djokovic won the final 2 games and the match. But afterwards, Nadal talked about the special atmosphere created by the fans.
I can't say much more than thanks. They make me feel so special, and I can't be happier and prouder about the support that I am receiving from them.
Yesterday was another good day for the U.S. The men's gymnastics team surprised many with a bronze medal in the team competition. Americans also won gold and silver in street skateboarding, and at the Olympic pool, Americans picked up another silver and 3 more bronze medals. Coming up today, it's the women's gymnastics team in the team competition, led by Simone Biles. It has a chance for gold. I'm Steve Futterman at the Summer Olympics in Paris.
Back here at home, police are investigating a deadly shooting during a barbecue at a park in Rochester, New York. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
Authorities said 2 women were killed and 5 other people were injured when gunfire erupted during an afternoon barbecue at a park in upstate New York. Hundreds of people were at Maplewood Park in Rochester at what had been a celebratory event when someone opened fire at around 6:20 p.m. Mayor Malik Evans says one of the women killed was a city employee.
The death of Taisha Manning hits hard for us because she was a city employee. She works for Dr. Green. And it's why we are ordering all flags on city facilities to fly half-staff for Taisha.
The second victim was 34-year-old Felicia Council. Several police agencies responded to the park, including neighboring police departments, the Rochester Police, and New York State Police. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Digital images revealed, cell phone carriers sued. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments takes a disciplined approach with investing, helping clients navigate volatile markets. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a mixed day yesterday for the markets. 2 trading days left in the month of July. Investors are on hold for the Fed, which begins a 2-day meeting on interest rates this morning. Chair Jay Powell could signal tomorrow afternoon in his Q&A with the press that the first long-awaited interest rate cut may come in September. 4 of the 7 companies in the so-called Magnificent Seven, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, and Facebook parent Meta, are reporting quarterly results this week. Today, it's Microsoft, and investors have been on hold for that. McDonald's shares were higher yesterday, even after disappointing quarterly results. Consumers have been balking at the higher prices.
A tough quarter for the fast food giant, missing estimates across the board. In the U.S., its key market, sales were down 0.7%.
You're seeing more deal seeking from the consumer, and you're just seeing, I think, a trade down.
As CEO Chris Kempczinski said, the consumer slowdown was most pronounced with low-income consumers.
CNBC's Kate Rogers. 2 trading days left in July. U.S. crude oil having its worst month since October, down 7%. Good for drivers, though. Prices at the pump have been ticking lower.
AT&T Cellular sued over invasion of privacy.
Yeah, AT&T is the latest to be sued by a female customer who says the company stole intimate photos from her phone when she was upgrading in an AT&T store. But there have been similar lawsuits against Verizon and T-Mobile and others, too.
A woman walks into an AT&T phone store, a Verizon phone store, T-Mobile store, looking to get their device upgraded or replaced. The company offers turnkey data transfer services. And, of course, the consumer willingly hands over their phone, thinking that it's safe in the custody of this retail employee. And in the process, the employee ends up going through the photos, finding intimate images and videos. They either email it to themselves from the victim's phone, and which is what happened in the AT&T case that was filed today. They might text it. So these are only the cases that the victim actually figured it out, because the employee didn't properly cover their tracks. And so in this case with AT&T, the woman about a week later was going through her sent box on her email, and she noticed that 2 emails were sent to an address that she didn't recognize, and those emails contained those intimate images.
CNBC's Gabrielle Fonrouge. Now, in one recent case, a judge decided to allow the suit to go forward. CNBC will follow the story. On today's watch list, earnings are coming from Microsoft, plus Starbucks, Pfizer, Merck, Procter & Gamble. We get the latest on home prices. A fresh read is coming on consumer confidence. The JOLTS report on job opportunities and labor turnover will be out. Krispy Kreme with a $1 donut day today to celebrate the Paris Olympics. $1 for a Team USA red, white, and blue donut.
Go Team USA. CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. A New York judge has reached a verdict in a case dealing with the finances of the National Rifle Association. Correspondent Jackie Quinn has details.
In a case against the NRA brought by New York's Attorney General, Judge Joel Cohen says he will bar former CEO Wayne LaPierre from holding a paid position within the gun lobbying group for a decade. But Cohen did not grant the request from Attorney General Letitia James to appoint a monitor over the group's finances. He called that type of oversight time-consuming and disruptive. In the first phase of the trial, a jury ordered LaPierre to pay back some $4 million used to finance a lavish lifestyle. Another NRA leader was ordered to pay back $2 million. I'm Jackie Quinn.
When we return on America in the Morning, Kim Jong-un ill? A new report after these messages. This is America in the Morning. The leader of North Korea is reportedly suffering from health problems. Correspondent Karen Shamas has details.
North Korean officials are seeking medication for Kim's obesity-related health problems, South Korean officials have said. South Korea's spy agency told lawmakers that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un appears to have obesity-related health problems, such as high blood pressure and diabetes. It added that Kim's officials are looking for new medicines abroad to treat them. The 40-year-old Kim, known for heavy drinking and smoking, comes from a family with a history of heart problems. Both his father and grandfather, who ruled North Korea before he inherited power in 2011, died of heart issues. I'm Karen Shamas.
New data suggests pediatricians may be overdiagnosing infants with tongue tie. Correspondent Julie Walker explains.
Experts say there isn't a good count of how many infants each year are being treated for tongue tie or ankylosing with surgery because they're having breastfeeding issues. But some believe the annual tally may exceed 100,000. Research suggests many of those treatments are not necessary. Dr. Jennifer Thomas is a pediatrician and the co-author of a new report from the American Academy of Pediatrics.
The practice got to be very common without a lot of good data, and we got very concerned that this was being done really without a lot of input. In fact, in many cases, without any input of the pediatrician.
The report recommends lactation experts, pediatricians, and surgeons and other medical professionals work with parents to evaluate possible reasons for breastfeeding challenges and make the best treatment decision. I'm Julie Walker.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, July 30th, 2024 is produced by Alexander Hinton. Our senior producer is Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
President Biden announces his proposal to dramatically change the Supreme Court. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
A judge in North Dakota canceled a trial scheduled for August in a lawsuit challenging the state's abortion ban. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Government wants U.S. flags made only in the U.S.
Northern and Southern Californians experiencing natural disasters. I'm Clayton Neville.
The U.S. Agriculture Department plans to set new limits on salmonella in raw poultry products. Jennifer King, Washington.
And bizarre bevy of bugs for beachgoers. After these messages. This is America in the Morning. AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton is in with the Tuesday forecast.
Beneath a sprawling zone of potent high pressure that is centered over Texas, a heat wave will build through this week from eastern Montana through North Texas and eventually extending into Arkansas, Missouri, and mainly western Iowa. Within this area, high temperatures of 8 to 15 degrees above the historical average can be expected today. While the heat lasts into the weekend for the southern part of this zone, an advancing cold front brings a brief reprieve from the heat tomorrow for places from the Dakotas into northern Nebraska before another hotter day on Thursday. However, the northern and eastern fringes of this same area of high pressure should instead prove to be a hotbed of very active thunderstorms today and even tomorrow, with what could turn out to be a couple of days of significant severe weather from the eastern Dakotas into sections of the Ohio Valley. Storms each afternoon and evening present the potential for large hail, wind gusts reaching hurricane force, and even some tornadoes through Wednesday night, with many places in line to get powerful storms both of the next 2 days. Elsewhere, a storm pushing toward the East Coast brings widespread shower and thunderstorm activity from the southern Appalachians into Kentucky, Ohio, and Michigan, and points eastward across the Northeast, although the coverage is expected to taper as you get closer to the coast. In fact, coastal residents from New Jersey and Long Island through southeastern New England may be able to enjoy a dry, albeit humid, day today. In the west, a fairly weak disturbance brings a couple of showers near and along the Idaho-Montana border, along with some drizzle for western Washington state. Monsoon thunderstorms may build once again in southern Arizona and parts of New Mexico, but coverage is likely to be rather sparse today. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. President Biden calls on Congress to pass legislation that would radically change the Supreme Court. John Stolnis has the latest from Washington.
Extremism is undermining the public confidence in the court's decisions.
In a speech at the Lyndon B. Johnson Presidential Library in Austin, Texas, the president urging lawmakers to enact major changes, specifically the creation of term limits for justices, as well as ethics reforms aimed at preventing interest groups from influencing justices.
The court is not self-policing. The court is not dealing with the obvious conflicts of interest. We need a mandatory code of ethics for the Supreme Court, and we need it now.
The president pointed to the High Court's recent decision that gave presidents some immunity for any illegal actions taken while performing their duties in office.
The president must answer to the law. The president is accountable in the exercise of the great power of the presidency. We're a nation of laws, not kings and dictators.
Under President Biden's legislation, justices would serve an 18-year term limit. Justices would also be forced to disclose all gifts received, stay out of any overt political activity, and recuse themselves from any cases in which they or their spouse has a potential conflict of interest. Democrats have seized on multiple media reports the last 2 years, showing conservative Justice Clarence Thomas failed to disclose gifts and luxury trips from a billionaire friend, and Justice Samuel Alito came under fire recently for flags flown outside his homes associated with the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Republican Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell among many conservatives calling these reforms a political tactic.
They decided the time has come to eliminate the Supreme Court as we know it. President Biden and his leftist allies don't like the current composition of the court, so they want to shred the Constitution to change it.
House Speaker Mike Johnson called any amendment proposal dead on arrival in the House, and unless Democrats hold 60 seats in the Senate in the next Congress, it's unlikely to move anywhere there either. The amendment would also state that presidents are not immune from a federal criminal indictment, trial, conviction, or sentencing. John Stolnis, Washington.
Former President Trump agrees to sit down with the FBI as part of its investigation into the assassination attempt on his life. Correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
We want to get his perspective on what he observes.
Kevin Rojek, who leads the FBI's Pittsburgh field office, says that's standard protocol for any victim of a federal crime. He tells reporters the FBI's getting a fuller picture of gunman Thomas Matthew Crooks, revealing him as smart but reclusive with few friends. Last week, the Bureau said one of his online searches was how far away was Oswald from Kennedy, referring to the 1963 JFK assassination.
He also made searches related to power plants, mass shooting events, information on improvised explosive devices, and the attempted assassination of the Slovakian Prime Minister earlier this year.
Rojek says the FBI still does not have a motive for the shooting. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
A judge in North Dakota cancels a trial to challenge the state's abortion ban as unconstitutional. Correspondent Haya Panjwani has details.
State District Judge Bruce Romanek is expected to rule soon on whether to dismiss the complaint in the lawsuit originally filed in 2022 by the formerly sole abortion provider in North Dakota. Plaintiffs, who include the Red River Women's Clinic and doctors trained in obstetrics, gynecology, and maternal fetal medicine, wanted the August trial to proceed. Special Assistant Attorney General Dan Gosted said in court last week that the plaintiffs' case is built on hypotheticals, that the clinic and its medical director, now in Minnesota, lack standing, and that a trial wouldn't make a difference. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Congress has passed a proposal to require the federal government to purchase only American flags that have been completely manufactured in the U.S. Our country imports millions of American flags from overseas, mostly from China, and those behind the legislation believe it's time for American flags to originate in the country they represent. The leaders of the effort, Republican Senator Susan Collins of Maine and Democrat Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio, say the change is more than just symbolic. They believe it'll support American jobs and manufacturers while preserving the nation's most recognized banner. The rule change has been sent to Joe Biden's desk, where it is expected to be signed into law soon. When we return on America in the Morning, wildfires in California, what's behind earthquakes in Texas, and combating salmonella nationwide. Those stories and more after these messages. Welcome back. I'm John Trout. You're listening to America in the Morning. The sixth largest wildfire in California history is raging, and firefighters say it could be months before it's fully extinguished. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The park fire started late last week near Chico after investigators say a 42-year-old man pushed a burning car into a gully. Days later, the fire has burned well over 350,000 acres. It's destroyed hundreds of structures and prompted evacuations in mountainous areas of Northern California. The Butte County Sheriff spoke with NBC News.
There is so much trauma in our community. It wears on our first responders, firefighters, law enforcement.
The suspect had his first court hearing yesterday. He didn't officially enter a plea at that hearing, but he is being held without bail. As of late Monday, the blaze had scorched over 370,000 acres and was 12% contained. Residents spoke with CBS News.
People that we know that went by and looked at the property said it's burned down. Everything, our stuff is all burned up.
CAL FIRE says thousands of firefighters in California are working the park fire and are getting help from around the country.
In areas like this, we need to utilize all of our different resources for specific jobs.
Fire Captain Robert Foxworthy.
It can be very challenging for the crews to fight fire in areas like this. Very steep terrain, inaccessible, very few roads. So all of those things can cause challenges just for getting the crews in and working. But then obviously the fuel conditions we have up here, large timber, lots of available fuel to burn.
Meanwhile, parts of Southern California experienced an earthquake on Monday. The quake reportedly struck about 15 miles outside Barstow in San Bernardino County. It measured a magnitude of 4.9 on the U.S. Geological Survey. No serious injuries reported in the quake, but social media was shook up with posts and testimonials of Californians who felt it. I'm Clayton Neville.
Officials at the U.S. Geological Survey are blaming the oil and gas industry for a series of earthquakes that have been hitting West Texas. Following that story, correspondent Lisa Dwyer.
There have been more than 50 earthquakes with a magnitude of 3.0 or larger in a years-long sequence that began in 2021, with the largest quake occurring last Friday, a magnitude 5.1, in the most active area in the country for quakes, potentially induced by oil and gas activities. Emergency officials in the city of Snyder say that the recent tremors have damaged homes, infrastructure, utility lines, and other property, weakening foundations and cracking walls. In Oklahoma, a large increase in quakes more than a decade ago led state regulators to place restrictions on the disposal of wastewater from oil and gas extraction. Since then, officials say the number of quakes in Oklahoma began to decline dramatically. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture is looking at implementing new rules aimed at combating salmonella. Correspondent Jennifer King has details.
The USDA estimates about 168,000 salmonella infections from chicken and turkey each year. The new rules would require testing, block the sale of poultry that's above a certain threshold for bacteria, and make products subject to recall. The science and tools to track salmonella have improved, according to Dr. Emilio Esteban, the USDA Undersecretary for Food Safety. He says while the industry has made progress in reducing the amount of salmonella in its products, there's not been a similar decline in the number of illnesses. Industry representatives question the rule's effectiveness and say it would raise the price of chicken. Jennifer King, Washington.
Ukrainian forces are saying Russian troops have pushed them out of two cities on the eastern side of the country. With the latest, here's correspondent Karen Shalmas.
The two villages lie about 20 miles northwest of Avdiivka, a Donetsk city that the Russian army seized in February after a long battle. A Ukrainian army sergeant has said the Russians pressed non-stop, sending in a large number of troops, which had not previously been used. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky described the situation in the Donetsk region as extremely challenging. He added that anyone who manages to stop the Russian offensive is performing one of the most important missions in the war. Ukraine is significantly outgunned by Russia's bigger army on the roughly 600-mile front line. I'm Karen Shamas.
The opposition candidate in Venezuela is challenging the country's recent election results. Correspondent Norman Hall has that story.
As thousands of people demonstrated across Venezuela,
Opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez says his campaign has the proof it needs to show he won the country's disputed election that electoral authorities handed to President Nicolas Maduro. Gonzalez and opposition leader Maria Corina Machado told reporters that they have obtained more than 70% of tally sheets from Sunday's election and that they show Gonzalez with more than double Maduro's votes. Both called on people, some of whom protested in the hours after Maduro was declared winner, to remain calm. I'm Norman Hall.
Bitcoin on a bit of a roller coaster of late as former President Trump vows to hold confiscated funds while the Treasury moved $2 billion worth, potentially to sell it off. Chuck Palm has more on today's Tech Report.
According to popular crypto website Decrypt, the U.S. government just moved $2 billion in Bitcoin that was confiscated during the Silk Road raid. Silk Road was a dark web marketplace that was shut down in 2014 for illegal activities. But until recently, that crypto wallet has remained untouched. The $2 billion transfer was moved to a wallet not yet identified, and this coming just days after former President Donald Trump vowed that he would keep 100% of seized Bitcoin if elected. Speaking at the 2024 Bitcoin conference in Nashville, he said he would create a strategic Bitcoin stockpile, and part of that move would be that the government would no longer sell any seized Bitcoin. After Trump's statement, Bitcoin surged to over 70,000 once again and began to dip to 68,000 shortly after the announcement of the government sell-off. Crypto entrepreneur and Galaxy Digital boss Mike Novogratz, commenting on X, said that the move was just tone-deaf. Others chimed in saying everybody freaks out whenever there's a big move. Comment at allthetoptech.tech. I'm Chuck Palm.
Olympics and more this Tuesday in sports with America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
Baseball on Monday, the Yankees walloped the Phillies 14-4 thanks to 6 dingers, 2 apiece for Jazz Chisholm Jr. and Aaron Judge, now with 39 to lead the majors.
You can ask us, how's it feel? You worried, this and that, but this team stayed true. We've been hit on the chin a couple times this year, but this team didn't get knocked down, so we're locked and loaded, ready to go.
Elsewhere, the Guardians doubled up the Tigers 8-4. Jose Ramirez homered twice. Diamondbacks fell behind 6-0 to the Nationals by the second inning, but battled back, scored 5 in the bottom of the ninth, and won it 9-8. Corbin Carroll with a pinch hit, walk-off, 2-run tater. Red Sox romped over the Mariners 14-7. Mets manhandled the Twins 15-2. Blue Jays and Orioles split a pair. Baltimore took the opener. Zach Eflin won his first start since coming over from the Rays. Anthony Santander hit his 30th homer. Toronto won the nightcap. Vladimir Guerrero went deep in both games. Royals ripped the White Sox. Bobby Witt Jr. with a granny. Chicago has now lost 15 straight. That's a new franchise record. Brewers came from behind to beat the Braves. Michael A. Taylor's 3-run shot in the ninth gave the Pirates the win over the Astros. Reds ran past the Cubs, and the Rangers are back on track. They beat the Cardinals. The trade deadline comes up this afternoon. Monday, a 3-way deal sent reliever Michael Kopech and utility man Tommy Edman to the Dodgers, starter Eric Fetty and outfielder Tommy Pham to the Cardinals, and a basket of prospects to the woebegone White Sox. The Astros got lefty Yusei Kikuchi from the Blue Jays. The Brewers added starter Frankie Montas from the Reds, and the Braves picked up slugger Jorge Soler and reliever Luke Jackson from the Giants, both of whom helped Atlanta to the pennant 3 years ago. Soler, in fact, was the World Series MVP that year. At the Paris Olympics, the U.S. added 8 medals to their total, none of them gold. The U.S. took silver and bronze in 2 events, women's 400-meter IM and men's street skateboarding. U.S. men's gymnastics took bronze. It's their first trip to the podium since 2008, and they finished less than 2 points behind Japan and China. Women's superstar Simone Biles will fully compete in today's team finals despite a calf injury during qualifying. She's in all 4 events and posted the top scores in floor and vault on Sunday after the injury. U.S. women's basketball rolled over Japan in its opening game. 56 consecutive Olympic victories for the U.S. women. The team's last loss was at Barcelona in 1992. They're seeking an 8th straight gold medal. After 3 days of competition, Team USA now has 20 medals to lead the field, 3 gold, 8 silver, and 9 bronze. Japan is tops in gold with 6 since Saturday. That's Tuesday Sports.
Thank you, sir. When we return on America in the Morning, invasion of the dragonflies and what the crowd is saying after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. Comic-Con, the annual pop culture mega convention, occurred this past weekend, and there were several major announcements from beloved media franchises. Kevin Carr has the update.
The San Diego Comic-Con took place this past weekend with some major announcements.
New mask, same task. What did I tell you? I like playing complicated characters.
Getting the biggest buzz was Robert Downey Jr.'s return to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Dr. Doom. With Dr. Doom as a villain in the revamped Avengers Doomsday, Marvel leaned into the hype of a new Fantastic Four movie which starts production this week with Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby.
One of the original Marvel families.
This was like one of the main forms of entertainment in the 60s, you know? So we're telling our version of this amazing, legacy of material.
Marvel also promoted next summer's Thunderbolts and Captain America Brave New World, featuring Anthony Mackie as the new Cap and Harrison Ford as Red Hulk.
I've been watching a bunch of terrific actors have a really good time, and I thought I might want a piece of that.
Other sci-fi franchises getting spin-offs include a prequel series for The Boys about the character Soldier Boy. Doctor Who is getting a spin-off called The War Between the Land and the Sea on Disney+. And finally, Star Trek Section 31, due next year, got a trailer.
31 is a Black Ops division. Spy work. Starfleet is here to make sure no one commits murder.
What a cute idea.
Other Star Trek announcements included a live-action comedy in development, cast additions to the new series Starfleet Academy, and the final season of Lower Decks. I'm Kevin Carr.
A swarm of thousands of dragonflies stunned and surprised beachgoers over the weekend in Rhode Island.
Oh my God. Oh my God, the kids are panicking.
Video shows beachgoers running for cover and hiding under blankets. Nicole Taylor told WFSB TV 1 minute everything was calm. The next minute I saw the most dragonflies I've ever seen in my life, adding, it lasted for like 3 minutes, and then they were gone. It's unclear what prompted the cloud of insects to visit the beach and then largely disappear. Perhaps the bugs also feel the same way about you and I. America in the Morning for Tuesday, July 30th, 2024 is produced by Alexander Hinton. Our senior producer, Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.